I started putting together a video for the engine, how to take out the engine for the Kia Soul, and I realized I really don't have any content. But that's the reason for that is because there is no content. It's just so easy. There's some things that shouldn't be filmed, or when you film it's in fast forward or something because it's just too simple, or it's just a time waster to film it. Okay, the reason why it's so easy is because everything is just so accessible, especially in my situation when the whole front end is removed. Now there's a engine mount on this right side or the left side of the engine, on the right side of the engine as well. Of course, I already have it removed, and all that's coming up later. And there's also an engine mount on the bottom. Now I like to work from the top of the engine, which is why I removed the exhaust manifold. But you can also remove the exhaust manifold from here, or remove the exhaust pipe and keep the exhaust manifold on the engine itself. So that's just how I do it. Everybody's a little different. But if you're going to do it the way I did it, you also have to remove this bracket down here. So that got me twice. So when I removed the engine from the Hyundai Elantra GT, it had the same thing, and you can see the two bolts down here. So just removing the bolts on the exhaust manifold is not enough. There's also the bracket that you have to remove. Now, I was trying to remove the axles, but I couldn't get them out, so I just left them in. There's no real reason to take them out. The only part that got in the way with the axles were the side splashes, the plastic side splashes here, and so I just removed them. There's two bolts holding them in, and once I took out the side splashes, there was no reason to remove the axles, so I just left them in. The other thing I want to talk about is the wiring. So there's really two ways to do it. I like to do it this way because you can really see where everything goes. These are going to meet up with the coils. All the connectors are unique, and it's pretty easy. Everything's accessible right there on the top of the engine as you're working on it. So you just unclip, unclip, unclip. You go to the other side, unclip, unclip, and then the entire wire harness can just be flopped over the other side if that's what you want to do. Now the other way to do this is to remove the wire harness. So you can see this assembly here would have to be removed. Sometimes the clips break, and that wire right there goes into the cab or into the car, and I don't even know how to disassemble it. I believe it disassembles here. So this part of the fuse box can disassemble, and then this wire harness can be removed along with part of the fuse box. But I don't know, it just seems harder to me, and everybody can do their own thing. This is just the way I like to do it. So the other issue I had a problem with was the lower ball joint, as you're going to see in this video. But even that is optional. You don't have to remove the lower ball joint. You can just remove the upper bolts of the spindle, these two here, and that might be even easier. So the overall, to remove the engine, it's super easy, especially in this situation. And it's not really worth talking about. Everybody knows how to remove a bolt or engine mount and stuff. So just check out the video. I guess it's more for entertainment purposes than it is for instruction. Well guys, I'm gonna have to think of something else. The lower ball joint down here doesn't seem to want to separate. And I don't know, there's 3 bolts down here. I removed all those. I removed the bolt right here, and nothing seems to be moving. Also, you can see the bolt that was holding it in is rusted. So I imagine everything else is rusted too. I was hoping this engine would come out tonight. If I could get those axles out, I can probably get the entire engine out tonight. But of course, you know, there's always delays, so I'll keep working on it. This lower ball joint is being an absolute pain in the butt. So what I did was I took out one of the bolts for the upper spindle here, or the strut, and then once the spindle released and came forward, that ball joint just fell out. Of course, you'll still want to open up the gap by putting in a screwdriver or a chisel and hammering it in to open up this gap. And then once the circle opens up a little bit, that shaft should come right out. You know, again, as long as you have that bolt removed. Well, here it is, guys. The engine is out. I have a very limited space to work with, but this area is okay. You know, once I start working in this area, I think there's enough room to work. And I need to remove the air conditioning hose. Of course, remove this fender panel here. And yeah, somewhere along here I'm gonna have to cut, and all this has to come out. I started my metal work and I'm attacking these spot welds here. But this is not gonna be easy because in the past these were two different brackets, and you could handle them easily and separately, but now this is all one big bracket, and it's tucked over here into the other bracket. So you can see the metal comes down and then it goes under the other bracket here. So I'm going to have to cut these spot welds as well. I wanted to show you guys how I'm taking off these spot welds. So at first I'm using this drill bit, and this is getting majority of the metal out. But then it leaves like a module right in the middle, and my tool can't slide underneath it. I'm just using a painter's tool here to wedge between the pieces of metal. But it's difficult to do that with that metal still remaining in the middle. So then I'm using the other drill bit, which also came with the kit, and this is just a spot weld drill bit and has a flat end on it. So then I take out that nodule in the middle, then my tool is able to slide in between the metal pieces. So that makes everything a lot easier. You can see it's working here. Everything's working pretty well. I went a little too deep on some of these holes, but I'm not sure how I'm going to fix these here, because like all these spot welds on the side are accessible, but the ones in the middle, I don't know, I'm just gonna have to peel this piece off and then just hope I can save this piece in the end. We'll see how it goes. Gone as far as I can tonight. I don't want to make too much noise and disturb the neighbors, but this piece is ready to come off. So let me see here. Get my hammer. Alright, this piece I'm going to save. I know it doesn't look too good, but I'm going to straighten it out as much as possible and clean it up, weld it in, and it should be okay. The other one was bent pretty bad. That's salvageable. Now I'm going to do this a little bit differently. The Hyundai, or I'm sorry, the Kia sectioning
instructions has us cut here and here, and then pull this section out, and then cut the inner structure in the middle, and that'll give us a place to weld. However, they also want us to cut the back side of this as well, and remove the entire section. But I'm going to try to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to try to preserve this side here. And you can see the kink over here. It's pretty nasty, but over here it's not kinked. So I want to preserve this side and just replace this right here. So I'm going to have to still remove this section, cut the inner structure, and that'll give me a nice even place to weld it when I put it back in. But I'm going to go ahead and remove these drills, or these spot welds, and go from there. So let's see. Here's the section I'm going to use. And you can see approximately the places where I want to weld and cut. So where it's pushed up here, that gives a really nice place to cut. So when cutting the outer structure, you really don't want to cut the inner structure, and so you want to cut where it's pushed up here. So now they say to cut here, but if you look, that's a really bad place to cut, because the inner structure is actually flat up against the outer structure. I don't want to cut the inner structure while I'm trying to cut the outer structure, and a lot of people are doing that when they section this frame. So where I move those cuts exactly is going to deviate a little bit, but it's for good intention. I want to maintain that inner structure and the structural integrity of the car. So yeah, I might just move that a little bit. I played with the lines of where I'm going to cut for a while. What I'm going to do is cut it a little differently, but have the same idea. I'm going to cut here because there's less spot welds to deal with. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And looking on the inside, you can see there's an air gap right here, and that's going to help me to not cut the inner structure. So you see it's separated right here. So I'm going to be just to the side of that circle. So, all right guys, it's time to cut, and I'll start drilling those spot welds out. All right, that worked out pretty well. That's my section right there. So now I have to cut this in the middle somewhere, and then this is going to be my weld point for the inner structure. And then once I'm done with that, this is going to go back on the outer structure, and all of this is going to get welded up.
Check out all the metal on the ground. Sheesh. Here. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm going to cut on this line, and then everything on this side is going to be trash. And I'm going to cut all the way through, make a complete cut even on the inner structure. And then that's going to give me some room to get in there and try to save the inner structure between here. Oh, and by the way, I do want to show you my tool. I didn't really like it at first, but I am liking it more and more now. One of the reasons why I didn't like it was because of the button. And you can see right here, you actually have to push it to the side. Well, that's off. You have to push it to the side and then up. and I didn't realize that. So I kept trying to push it just as it is, and I couldn't do it. I didn't know what was wrong. And I never saw a button like this where you have to push it to the side first and then up. But now that I know how to use it, yeah, I like it. And it's got a really nice battery on it. I switched my blade here to the grinding wheel instead of the cutting wheel, and this one is just a little bit thicker so it doesn't wear out as fast, and it's meant to take off more metal across a wider area. I didn't want to use this tool because it's going to kill my battery, but I do have my other angle grinder, the corded one, if we run out of battery, so that's fine. Anyway, what I'm going to do is get it in here in the corner and try to take out that metal. Well, I just realized I made a small mistake. So I'm going to go ahead and cut here on this line here, and that's going to be my final cut. And then I have to cut this one as well, and the two are going to butt up together. And the reason why it's a mistake is because I just cut here, and I'm really not going to use that cut at all. So I could have just as well cut here and saved myself, I don't know, about 30 minutes. I'm going to give you guys a close-up of what I'm doing. So I just cut this out. Like I was saying, I made a mistake. Instead of making my big cut here, I should have made it here. But now that I have this, what I want to do is just remove the outer structure. So here's this piece here. Once I weld the inside, then this is going to go over the outside. Two welds will go there, grind everything down, and then paint it, and we're in business. And then we'll start putting on the other panels to go over this for the engine mount and everything else. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Right on, right on. This is the official sectioning procedure from Kia. However, this is for the left side of the vehicle. And so basically you're removing all the sections to get it accessible, to get the frame accessible. So if you guys want to pause and check it out. Now here's the real part right here. So once you get everything out of the way, then they identify where to cut. So there's a hole here, and this hole is on both sides. So there's a hole, and you want to measure 350 millimeters from there. You're going to make your first cut. And then another 110 millimeters from there, make your second cut. Then that section comes out. But, you know, first they identify the spot welds here, where to drill the spot welds. And this is only consistent with the left side now. So once that section comes out, then they want you to cut the inner structure 45 millimeters from the 350 millimeter mark. And then they want you to cut on the opposite side. Now this is to replace the entire front section. So like I was saying, I deviated from that, and I only replaced one half of the front section. And then also it's important to note that this is a staggered cut. So they're not just cutting right here, right down the middle.
So that's 260 millimeters from that hole that they're identifying. And then the entire front comes off. And you're supposed to put on the new one. Clamp it in place, weld the inner structures, and then weld the piece, the cover back on. And then you're going to weld all the motor mount stuff or battery mounts and stuff like that, just as you did before. And a lot of this stuff is just self-explanatory. But like I was saying, this is for the left side. I worked on the right side of the vehicle, and I'm going to get a tape measure here, and I'm going to show you where I cut. All right, you can see how I'm measuring from the side of the circle. And okay, slipped off a little bit, but let's check it out here. Okay, for the first cut, we're looking at about 357 millimeters. The second cut is going to be over here. Try to line it up. That's right at the edge of the circle there. 399, or actually maybe even 400 millimeters. And the last one, the last cut is 376 millimeters. Not only can you use the measurements, but you can also see where I cut. There's a hole here. I cut right on the line of that hole. There's also 2 spot welds up here. I cut just right of those spot welds. And that's only for the outer layer. And then once you expose that, you can see the inner layer, and I just cut it right down the middle. All right, last thing I'm looking at here are the body measurements for the front end. My buddy at the auto body shop actually provided this to me. He's the guy that paints everything for me. And I asked him for some measurements, and he provided them, so that was really cool. This is actually looking underneath the car. So whatever you guys want to do, if you guys want to copy them down, here's some measurements here. Hey guys, this video is a wrap. Tomorrow I'm gonna probably pick up some gas for my welder, and I might be checking out some foreclosures around the area. I might be bidding on those, but let's see. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way this car is turning out. So it's kind of stressful at first. You know, you get the car and you're like, oh no, there's frame damage, and then you think how long it's gonna take and all the equipment you gotta buy and all this stuff, and then and once it settles in, you just develop a plan, you start buying stuff, you start doing stuff, and pretty soon it's halfway done. So in the end, it wasn't that bad. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to do it again. It's not like I completely enjoy it, but once you look back and you see something that's going pretty well, it is a little fun, I guess. So anyways, we'll see you in the next one, guys. Take care.